Practically every day we hear about another seizure of a UOC temple by representatives of the OCU. Their number is approaching 1,000. But every time we see how this happens, the question arises: what is the purpose of church raids? What can the new owners offer to Ukrainians? How do they believe in Christ? How can they help Orthodox believers in the salvation of their souls? After all, a temple is not a store or an office. It is a place where people should become closer to Christ, closer to heaven. Let's get to know them better. On January the 9th, 2024, another bandit seizure shocked the whole of Ukraine, this time the Kazan Cathedral in Ladan, the Vinnytsia region. People in uniform rammed the doors of the ancient church with a bulldozer, dispersed tear gas in the parishioners, threw them onto the street and bat them. The rector's face was smashed to blood. On the same day, new owners arrived at the Kazan Cathedral. Clerics of the OCU led by the Dean of the Trostanets Deanery, Mikhailo Torbahevich, and as usual it is implied that the old owners of the temple from the UOC are bad, while the new ones from the OCU are good. But what exactly are they good in? Take a look at how Torbahevich crosses himself. His sign of the cross is 3 parallel straight lines. Even a guitar is attached to him on the internet, for it fits perfectly. And this is not just an ordinary priest in the OCU, he is a dean who oversees 9 parishes. What does he teach them? He teaches them to glorify the nation and wish death to enemies.
Слава Україні! Героям слава Україні! Героям слава Україні! Героям слава нації! Україна!
In addition, Torbahevich also dislikes the so-called Russian icons. Look at how he holds the Kazan icon of the Mother of God. A similar situation occurs with another cleric of the OCU, Yuri Bolshakov from the Kiev region. The only difference is that Bolshakov personally seizes UOC temples. First, he seized the Boris and Gleb temple in Vyshhorod, then twice cut off the locks of the St. Panteleimon temple. And now look at how he crosses himself. While Torbahevich's hand drew parallel straight lines, Bolshakov draws the Latin letter V instead of the sign of the cross. It is important to note that both Torbahevich and Bolshakov knew they were being filmed by their opponents, but they just waved their hands as they had been accustomed to doing over many years. MP Mykola Kняжицький from Poroshenko's Euro Solidarity is one of the most active propagandists of the OCU Thomas and haters of the UOC. Back in 2022, he introduced a bill to ban the UOC, which stipulated that only those who are part of Epiphany Domenko structure could call themselves Orthodox in Ukraine. He also made a huge film about the relationship between the UOC and the OCU titled A Church Without Christ. In other words, Kняжицький positions himself as an expert in the church sphere. But let's see how this expert crosses himself. Entering a seized UOC temple in Lviv, he draws some kind of triangle on his stomach, moreover from left to right, in the Catholic manner. Exactly the same triangle from left to right the deputy draws on his stomach while standing at the OCU temple in the Carpathians. In the same church, he again draws this triangle, but this time from right to left. And in the cathedral of the OCU in Poltava, again from left to right. Like Torbahevich and Bolshakov, Kняжицький lazily waves his hand instead of making the sign of the cross. Yet, the cross of Christ is the main symbol of our faith and the weapon of a Christian against the enemy. If such an attitude towards the cross is displayed by clerics and supporters of the OCU, then why should it be different towards the Holy Communion? Priest of the OCU Serhiy Dmitriev is friends with journalist of Poroshenko's Channel 5 Yanina Sokolova and often goes to her broadcasts. During one of them, Sokolova decided to reflect on communion.
І вважають, що якщо вони сходили до церкви і там поїли просфорку, кагорчика випали з ложки, з'їли якусь хрінотінь, вибачте, від Онуфрія, а потім повернулися додому і вирішили, що все, вони очищені.
And the main thing here is not the words of this woman. The main thing is that the priest's silence in response to the phrase that communion is grabbed from a spoon speaks louder than any words. As the saying goes, silence is consent. The leader of the Seizure of the Transfiguration Cathedral of the UOC in Bila Cerkva, Mykola Halpinich, administers communion to a child in his OCU temple. The child throws a plastic cup with holy water drunk after the sacrament into the chalice. Halpinich simply picks up this glass with his fingers and places it on the tray with the others, regardless of the fact that there are likely drops and streaks left on the bottom and walls. This glass is picked up several times by other parishioners until it is taken away to be washed. We know that the blood of Christ is the greatest sanctity, and even one drop of it spills, the service stops until priests collect everything to the smallest particle. Here, Halpinich didn't attach any importance to this incident at all. OCU priest Viktor Bed in 2017, while still in the Ukrainian Autocephalous Church, made an arch-pastoral visit to the city of Teplice in the Czech Republic. Before the liturgy, he was symbolically presented with bread and salt. Bed did not understand the symbolism, plucked a piece of bread, had a snack, and went to serve the liturgy with renewed vigor. For the uninitiated, nothing special, but believers look at it with round eyes. They know that the Eucharistic fast before communion is at least 6 hours. Only a non-believer can have a snack before the liturgy. Kherson cleric of the OCU, Serhiy Chudinovich, even before his legalization by Patriarch Bartholomew, was fond of broadcasting his services on Facebook. During the Eucharistic canon, at the most sacred moment of the divine liturgy, Chudinovich enthusiastically picks his nose. These frames were filmed by himself and posted online. That is, he saw no problem in them. During the forceful seizure of the church in Trabukiv, OCU activists called the Holy Scripture and prayer books with the order of communion rubbish and trash, having thrown them into the dump.
Мусора познаходили. Я думаю, що цю книжку віддамо Богдані, вона її утилізує. Російські, такі, тобто теж сміття повне.
Посібнички.
Посібнички і так далі. Красавчики. Сміття російське, яке не буде такого в наших церквах. Утилізуємо сміття. Сміття до сміття. Ще оце заберіть собі.
In the village of Kurozovany, OCU activists during the seizure of the Intercession Church went into the altar and brought out the altar with sacred items right onto the road. For an uninformed person, this means nothing, but church people know that only clergy can touch the altar on which the greatest sacrament in the world is performed. To pull it out of the church and throw it onto the road is blatant sacrilege. Violence during church raids has long become commonplace for the OCU. For example, a group of thugs in Cherkasy brutally bat parishioners during the seizure of the Nativity of the Virgin Convent. A 76-year-old man had his leg broken, a priest had his jaw broken, and another UOC cleric was simply repeatedly punched in the face. One might think that a normal person should condemn such behavior and distance themselves from the thugs. After all, this is not just anti-Christian, it goes beyond the bounds of ordinary morality. However, the Metropolitan of the OCU calls these thugs his parishioners and says that by attacking people at the church, they were defending themselves.
Відбувся просто самозахист парафіян, які захищали себе знову від накидання кидання в бійку з боку оцих осіб.
But should we be surprised if the example is set by the OCU clergy themselves? In Forcible, during the seizure of the Intercession Church, an OCU cleric kicked an elderly priest, Father Anatoly, in the stomach. The priest fell. Later, he needed medical assistance.
Скорую!
Взяли, понесли!
Матушка, водичку надо!
If OCU clergy resort to violence, then seizing temples is child's play. OCU clerics Maxim Matvichuk, Mikhailo Krychkovsky and Andrei Misko personally broke down the doors of the Transfiguration Cathedral of the UOC in Bila Tserkva. Misko spent 3 hours hitting the doors with a sledgehammer, breaking them with a crowbar and destroying them with an angle grinder and a chainsaw. In Stara Zhadova, Chernivtsi region, on the homeland of Serhiy Dumenko, an OCU cleric attempted to saw off the lock on the Archangel Church of the UOC with an angle grinder. Only the intervention of parishioners was able to stop him. At the end of January 2024, Ukrainians were shocked by the behavior of another OCU dean, now in the Khmelnytsky region. Mykola Homyak, during the seizure of the Intercession Church in the village of Pecheske, behaved like a recently released convict.
Ви секта!
Ви спілкуйтеся, будь ласка, нормально.
Закрий до мене приступ, ще раз повторяю тобі. Якщо ти не хочеш попасти, то є прокляття. Закрий до мене приступ. І не махай руками до мене. Бо я тебе зараз прийму.
А що ви...
Май повагу.
Будь ласка, до мене, оберніться зі мною спілкуєтесь. А ви чистий?
Ні більше не відкривай.
In another place, in one of the state institutions, Homyak put up a fight with a person who was filming him.
Я зараз зніму тобі. Ти мене питав, що знімати можна? Ти мене питав, що знімати можна? Постав телефон. Чому ви знімаєте?
Some may say that we deliberately seek dirt in the OCU. There are also unfaithful clerics in the UOC. There are, but such things are very rare exceptions to which the hierarchy always reacts. But does Dumenko react to everything we've shown? Should a wolf react if its cubs kill someone? We have never heard Epiphany condemn the forcible seizure of any temple. He only rewards for such church raids. For example, in his name, the mayor of Ivano-Frankivsk, a unit, was awarded for organizing the seizure of the UOC cathedral. In Bila Tserkva, he rewarded priest deputy Mykola Hopynich for seizing the Transfiguration Cathedral, the same one who fished a glass out of the chalice with his fingers. Therefore, Epiphany's signal to his clerics and authorities is clear. You are doing the right thing. But can such people consider themselves priests? If they wave their hands instead of making the sign of the cross on camera, if they beat other priests, if they remain silent in the face of blatant sacrilege, if they take food before the divine liturgy, and many other ifs. They perceive the church simply as a place to earn money. This is the only way to explain why people who call themselves priests commit explicitly unchristian acts. It is stupid and meaningless to say that you are a Christian shepherd and then do the opposite of what Christ teaches. How can a true priest, after driving out people who have prayed in the church for years with tear gas, run into the altar and pray demonstratively for the camera? What are you praying to God for while beaten parishioners are crying on the street, when the crowd you gathered is driving them away with shouts of derision? Where is your conscience? Where is your Christian compassion? Do you really believe that God will hear such prayers? This question is not only to the clerics of Epiphany Dumenko. It is to everyone who is driving believers of the UOC out of their churches today. And even if you are a patriot 10 times over and believe that an ideal state can be built on grief and tears of non-patriots, if you are a Christian, can you really believe that a Church of Christ can be built on grief and tears?